The Sports Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast. With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brandon Machine says, "Give me the rock." Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam. And now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch. Today is Sunday, February 15th, 2026. It's my official duty to welcome you into episode 532 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to the Music City. We'll forego Jubilation City in this one. I'm here in my hotel room. It is, Valentine's Day is over with. It's very early in the morning on February 15th. And final from, yesterday evening inside Bridgestone Arena here in Nashville. Virginia 70, Ohio State 66. The Buckeyes led the number 15 Cavaliers for 23 minutes and 41 seconds. The Buckeyes had a better shooting night than the Cavaliers. Ohio State attempted 11 more field goals than Virginia, made 6 more, and came out on the wrong side of a 4-point loss after having gotten to 59 points at the midpoint of the second half. And then everything just got more difficult. And the Buckeyes end up in what was a great environment. Honestly, as far as like these non-conference random neutral site games go, this is probably the best one that we've seen in a good while. Well, maybe that's not fair to say. I mean, the CBS Sports Classic is often awesome, but 6,438 fans inside Bridgestone Arena. They curtained off the top section, and it was loud, and the fans were into it, and this felt like we were pacing for a really special, historic type of night by the end, and Bruce Thornton had a ton to do with that, and ultimately Ohio State did not have enough around him. And we should, off the top, get to the news of the day, aside from Ohio State taking another resume-damaging loss, but it's that Ohio State played this game without John Mobley Jr. Mobley sustained a hand injury in the USC win. He left the game during the second half, was holding his right hand like awkwardly away from his body, and got some treatment on the bench, came back in with his pinky and ring finger on his right shooting hand taped, hit 2 threes. The only 2 threes he made in the game were after he got the tape on his hand. But don't know the specifics of the injury, but he did have to have surgery, and he is out indefinitely. He is expected to return by the end of the regular season. It's possible this could just be a 2-week thing, but it ultimately comes at just an absolutely brutal time for Ohio State, that the Buckeyes absolutely need to get something in the way of a few quality wins if they have any real hopes of making it to the NCAA tournament. This was one of the best high-profile opportunities to do that. I thought that Ohio State had some matchup opportunities against the Cavaliers, and also the metrics would show you that Ohio State has played a much tougher schedule than Virginia, not just in the non-conference, but overall as well. Ohio State came in having played 11 top 50 Ken Palm teams, and Virginia had played 5. I was curious how that would play out. Ohio State had played more of those games. The Buckeyes were only 2-9 in those 11, and Virginia was 4-1 in its 5. But Ohio State had played more, I felt, elite competition or higher ranked competition overall than the Cavaliers, and that made this an interesting matchup for Ohio State, because it felt like there was a real opportunity that perhaps Ohio State would be better equipped to handle that kind of game pressure against another high major, high rated opponent, because it's had more experience in those kinds of games this season. But then John Mobley is unavailable, and that kind of threw a lot of the calculus, I think, in this game right out the window. And in spite of that, Ohio State was very much in position to win this game and had the lead late and got out to a 17-6 start and just seemed to be on its way to making one of these games go its way. And then the last 10 minutes happened, and we're going to get into those 10 minutes and what went wrong and how Ohio State finds itself looking at a 4-point loss here in a minute. Although honestly, it's hard to separate those moments, specifically the last 10 minutes, and the box score on this game. You look, so Virginia had 9 players on the floor between 14 minutes and 31 minutes. Everybody for Virginia had between 3 and 13 points. Only they had the Cavaliers had 3 players in double figures. Malik Thomas led the way with 13. But then on Ohio State's end, Bruce Thornton had 28, and Bruce Thornton had 26 with 10 minutes to go in the game. He had 26 of Ohio State's first 59 points and was 7 for 7 from the field to open the second half before he finally missed, and then everything seemed to change for Ohio State. He did not get enough help from a supporting cast on a night where he was already without John Mobley Jr. Amari Bynum played well. He had 15 and 6, 3 of 4 from 3. Hit a big one, or hit a couple of critical shots. He had a block. He looked more like the Amari Bynum we saw maybe 2-3 weeks ago. I thought he rose to the occasion. He filled in, not filled in, but he stepped up admirably. And then after that, it drops off pretty significantly. Christoph Tilley had 11 points, but he was 4 of 12. He had 3 rebounds in this game. And then you had 3 other Buckeyes with 4 points each. Tayson Chapman, in his first career start in place of John Mobley Jr., 4 points on 2 of 5 shooting. He had 1 rebound, committed 3 fouls. He had 1 assist and 2 turnovers, one of which was kind of critical, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Ivan Ugovan had 4 points off the bench. He also had 5 rebounds. But then the other one that really jumps out is Devin Royal, who played 32 minutes and 42 seconds in this game and finished with 4 points and fouled out. He was 2 of 12 from the floor. He was 0 of 2 from 3. He only had 1 turnover, but it was a doozy. And simply put, Ohio State, again, did not get enough from enough guys to make up for the absence of John Mobley Jr. And that all comes in spite of what felt like it was going to be an all-time Bruce Thornton performance, and perhaps would have been if like someone else had been able to stem the tide at the midpoint of the second half. The other stat that really jumps out, so like I said, so Ohio State goes 27 of 60 from the floor, shoots 45%. Virginia goes 21 of 49, shoots 42.9%. Ohio State only took 14 threes in this game. That ties for its fewest in a game this season, and the Buckeyes made 6 of them. That's 42.9%. Virginia was 6 of 18 from 3, so that's an even 33.3%. But then here's the big separator in this game. So Ohio State ends up outshooting the Cavaliers, taking more shots, making more shots. But Ohio State goes 6 of 9 from the free throw line, and Virginia was 22 of 32, which led to an interesting point from Jake Diebler post-game, and we'll get into that before we wrap this one up as well. So Ohio State now, with the loss, drops to 16 and 9. And will resume Big Ten play on Tuesday when a Wisconsin team that has been playing elite basketball of late. The Badgers won at Illinois on Tuesday and then blew out Michigan State at home on Friday. So they will come to Columbus 18 and 7 overall, 10 and 4 in the Big Ten, and they will be ranked, I'm sure, when the polls refresh on Monday, which will give Ohio State a chance for its first win against a ranked team this season. Ohio State is now 0-6 against ranked teams this year. 2 of those losses are to Michigan, and frankly, those losses to me are whatever. Michigan continues to just beat the brains out of people, and the last 2 times I turned on a Michigan game, it's been like, oh, it's kind of interesting here with like 15 minutes to go, and then the Wolverines just like outscore their opponent like 45-2 the rest of the way. Michigan is doing this to everybody. So yes, Ohio State lost twice to the Wolverines. Everybody's losing to the Wolverines. I'm not putting a whole lot into that, but you now have for Ohio State 8-point loss to Illinois, 3-point loss to Nebraska, 4-point loss to Virginia, 1-point loss to North Carolina. So 4 losses to 4 ranked teams by a combined 16 points. Once again, we did have Bruce Thornton talking about the little things after the game. So that got brought up again. Let's get into this sequence. Although I guess before we do, I want to remind you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. If If you're subscribed, you'll get the newest ones just as soon as our man Patrick Flaherty, the Podfather, can grab them and publish them for us. While you're subscribing or downloading, please leave a review. Please click 5 stars, and please consider telling a friend. Thanks to everyone who's taking the time to do all those things. And shouts to Tom and Jane H. Always great running into the two of you, and I really enjoyed getting to chat with you before the game. Hopefully the trip home is going well, and hopefully the podcast helps with the drive. I was thinking about the two of you walking to post-game interviews and curious for how a loss like this sits with fans that care as much as they do, and how they feel about this. And well, let's just get right into it. So here's where it goes wrong. So Bruce Thornton, like I said, heater, second half, hits his first 7. He's up to 26 points, and you could just feel it in the crowd where it was like there was no answer. Like Bruce was in the zone, and he could do no wrong. Until this, so there's a sequence here where after the teams had traded leads early, so Ohio State pushes it up to a 6-point lead when Thornton gets fouled with 13-17 to go. It's 50-44, and then it's 50-46 when Bruce scores, and then puts it back up to 6. Ohio State gives up 2 free throws. Tilly scores. They give up a 3-pointer. Bruce hits a 3 to immediately answer, so it's 57-51. Virginia gets a dunk. Thornton scores again. It's 59-53. And Virginia comes down, draws a foul on Puff Johnson, who did play 8 minutes and 30 seconds. The only stat that he had was he committed 3 fouls. Did not play a whole lot down the stretch. I did have a post-game question or two about that. I wasn't able to get that into the press conference, but he on a night where Ohio State's depth was limited, given how Puff had played against USC, I thought maybe we might see more of him, but that I'm guessing the foul issues, coupled with the fact that Diebler has said they don't necessarily want to throw him into some of these situations too much too soon down the stretch, because they had to change a lot with Mobley being unavailable. So I'm guessing all that plays a factor in Puff Johnson only playing 8 minutes and 30 seconds. But so he commits a foul that takes us to a timeout with 9:48 to go. And then 4 seconds after play resumes and they inbound the ball, Devin Royal commits a foul. He fouls Malik Thomas, goes to the free throw line. He hit for a 1-on-1, hits the first, but misses the second. So Ohio State's down 5. And then Virginia was able to mess up Ohio State's possession. And the Buckeyes the ball was kind of knocked loose and ends up in Bruce Thornton's hands. And he gets the ball right before the shot clock buzzes. And it's kind of like more of a heave than a jumper, I would say. And you thought for sure it was going in. Like this was the kind of game Bruce Thornton was having. This was the kind of night Ohio State was having. He missed. And then at the next end, on the other end of the court, Virginia hits one of its 6 3-pointers of the game. They get it to Malik Thomas, who was 2 of 5 from 3. He hits a 3 in the left corner. He was open. It's now a 2-point lead for Ohio State. And this is where, again, Ohio State, decide what you want to decide about why these possessions happened the way that they did. And I'm not going to change anybody's mind, and I'm not going to try to change anybody's mind. So deduce what you want from this sequence of possessions here, starting with, again, there was a rough offensive possession. Thornton has to heave the ball at the shot clock, and it doesn't fall. Next possession, Amari Bynum turns it over. And then Virginia comes down, gets a miss in the paint. Tayson Chapman gets the ball, and he drives, but he threw just a poor pass and turns it over. But still, Ohio State comes down, forces a 3-point miss. Bynum with a powerful rebound. Thornton gets the ball in the right block, and he doesn't score. He misses. Virginia ties it on a runner from Chance Mallory, who had 12. And Ohio State calls a timeout here. There's about 6.5 to go. It's a tie game, 59-59. And the Buckeyes inbound the ball, and they get it to Bruce. And he's got the ball along the right wing in front of the Ohio State bench. And he goes to just make a normal pass. He's being guarded by Dalen Hall, who is 2 inches taller than Bruce. And he just nabs the pass from Bruce. And then here was the possession that, to me, are the 2 possessions that really kind of broke it for Ohio State. So he steals his pass from Thornton, and they get the ball up court, and they miss a three-pointer. But then I'm going to try to pronounce his name. Oganwa Onienso, big dude, 33, 7 foot, 245 center, Kansas State transfer. He gets the offensive rebound off the three-point miss, and they throw a lob back to him, and Amari Bynum gets called for a foul. So he goes to the line. He misses the front end of the 1-and-1. But then what happens? Virginia comes up with the offensive rebound. Devin Tillis, a 6'7", 240-pound UC Irvine transfer, grabs the rebound. He ends up dishing it back to 33, back to the big guy. He scores. Ohio State's now losing. So there's a possession where Ohio State had multiple opportunities to get out of it. Offensive rebound, unable to come down with it. 1-and-1, they miss the front end, and you give up the rebound on the missed free throw, and it's now a 2-point deficit, 61-59. And then so here's a sequence where Ohio State gets the ball to Christoph Tilley, and he gets it in the paint, and he tries this left-handed hook shot over Onienso. Try to get there by the end. Tilley blocks the shot, but then he blocks Tilley's shot, but then Tilley manages to tip the block off of him and out of bounds. And then the big guy blocks Tayson Chapman, but it gets blocked to Amari Bynum, and he's driving, and he gets a shot off like a full second too late. The shot clock goes off. It's a shot clock violation. And still Ohio State is battling. They force a 3-point miss. Thornton scores, breaking this streak of about 4.5 minutes where the Buckeyes didn't score. It's 61-61. And then Virginia comes down, and Chance Mallory drives, and he puts up the shot in the paint that hits like the back of the rim, like the flat part, and it just kind of thuds and falls in. 63-61. Ohio State would never lead again. This was the final go-ahead bucket. But from here, there are 9 straight possessions where nobody scores. And when you look at Ohio State's offensive possessions, Devin Royal goes in the paint and takes a contested fadeaway jumper that doesn't fall. And then Virginia comes down and misses a 3. And then Bruce Thornton comes up short on a runner, gets the offensive rebound, but gets tied up. There's not a foul call. It's an offensive rebound. Virginia has possession, so it goes to the Cavaliers. Ohio State looks to force the turnover, but it gets challenged. And Bruce, with 13 seconds on the shot clock, Bruce Thornton blocks a shot, goes out of bounds. Ohio State forces a shot clock violation. Thornton gets the ball. Okay, I'm trying to read my own handwriting here. So here's a possession. This was something that not only did Christoph Tilley go 4 of 12 from the field, they go 1 of 3 from 3. But they got the ball. They did this play we see Ohio State do all the time, where it's like they'll get the ball like on the left wing, usually to like Bruce or sometimes to Devin, where they'll have someone on the opposite block, like kind of like set like almost like a backwards screen where they're just like clearing their man out. And so whoever has the ball can kind of come around on a curl. If they can get a step on their defender, they can finish with the layup there. We've seen Ohio State do this time and time again. It very frequently works. And they did that for Christoph Tilley at this point. I think to just get Bruce a break. And it worked for a split second, but Tilley hesitated. And he didn't fully commit to the drive to the right block to try to score. And instead picks up his dribble. The possession gets bogged down. He throws it to Thornton. He has to take a jumper. It doesn't fall. But then Ohio State forces another defensive miss. And then Thornton takes what I thought was kind of a quick 3 in this moment. Wasn't really set, and it doesn't fall. And Tayson Chapman commits a foul with 1:42 left. We've now just seen like 4 minutes go by without anybody scoring, and it's still a 63-61 game. Ohio State keeps getting the stops, but can't get the bucket. So Tayson Chapman commits a foul with 1:42 to go that sends Mallory to the free throw line for a 1-on-1, and he misses the front end. So Ohio State still has a chance. And Devin Royal gets fouled with 1:26 to go. Rather large foul discrepancy here. This doesn't send Royal to the line. So Ohio State has possession, 1:26, down 2. And Devin just kind of like loses the ball. He was dribbling and it kind of popped loose. And this was like at the other end of the court looking my way. He had it like his back to the basket, so he's looking at me, like toward the end where I'm sitting. And the ball is loose. And it looked like Devin thought like someone else was going to grab it. And that someone else was Dalen Hall, who goes the other end, scores with a little more than a minute left, and Ohio State is now down 4. That sequence right there, where they did what they needed to do. Like, how many times have we talked this year about if Ohio State could just get a stop and a score, what a difference that would make? Well, they got like 5 stops, and then you had Devin take a fadeaway paint jumper. Bruce comes up short on a runner. Tilly doesn't execute the drive, and he dishes to Bruce, who then has to force a shot. That doesn't fall. Bruce takes a 3 that doesn't fall, and then Devin turns it over. All during a sequence where you are getting stop after stop after stop. I felt Ohio State's defense for long stretches in this game was as good as it's been all year, and it was not enough. So after this sequence here, they go up. The Cavaliers go up 4. Tilly gets a 3 that he airballs, and Thornton has to foul. They're chasing at this point, and really what happens after that doesn't really matter. But Ohio State scores 2 points between roughly 10 minutes to go, and with 31.2 seconds left, Amari Bynum hits a 3 to break that spell. But after the game, Virginia coach Ryan Odom, he talked about how they had to start committing 2 to the ball to try to disrupt Thornton. He said it's not something that they do a whole lot, but they had practiced. I asked Jake Diebler and Bruce Thornton, like, well, what did you guys try to adjust back to doing? And I've got their full answers in the post-game takeaways that are available for you to read by now. Like, Diebler said that, like, he said, quote, they held up when we got in the paint. That's where we didn't read it as well as we needed to. He said that was the counter. You want to commit 2 to the ball screen? We'll get some of our off-ball movement, some off-ball screening actions. We lacked a little bit of execution on some of our slipping actions to create space. That's something we've got to clean up. Another way you can create movement in space instead of just going up and ball screening. Thornton said they adjusted their defense. They started trapping the ball. We wasn't in the right spots. I had a big-time turnover. Me being an older guy, I can't have those crucial mistakes. Now, I think that the other thing that is certainly worth pointing out here is that so much of this team was built around Bruce Thornton, John Mobley, Devin Royal. Those 3, on any given night, one of them is clicking. Often 2 of them are, and rarely we've seen all 3 of them scoring at a high level. And on a night where Mobley is not available due to injury, and this is what we're going to see from Ohio State now for the next handful of games, they needed more from Devin Royal, and they needed more from Christoph Tilly. I mean, I know, again, he got to double figures, took him 12 shots, and again, we saw Virginia's size impact him around the rim at times, to where I thought that was part of why, like, clearly they were trying to get that drive for him to get him to the right block to finish there late in the game, and it didn't work. And the other thing, well, 2 things that also then stand out is Virginia finished with a 40-26 rebounding advantage, and there was a stretch in the first half where Ohio State went from 10:53 until 2:58 in the first half. Ohio State did not get a rebound. Virginia got 9 straight rebounds. This is the team that is elite at getting offensive rebounds, at keeping possessions alive. Virginia only finished with a 9-4 advantage in second chance points, and Ohio State had a 16-4 advantage in points off of turnovers. The Buckeyes forced 12 turnovers, turned those into 16 points. And Ohio State mostly took care of the ball, but the turnovers that they did have were pretty critical. Like I said, the Bynum turnover, the Chapman turnover, Thornton turnover. So there was, let me see, how many turnovers did Ohio State have then in those last couple of minutes? That's like 4 turnovers in the last roughly 7 minutes of the game. And the other thing that I thought this was a fair point, Jake Diebler was asked about the officiating and about the free throw discrepancy. And he pointed out the fact that Ohio State tied for its season low in 3-pointers. He didn't say that point specifically, but he said this isn't the game where we were playing on the perimeter, shooting a bunch of deep jump shots. He said we were intentional about attacking the paint. We played with physicality offensively. I thought there had been some rules of the game established. It seemed to be some inconsistencies. He said if we shot 33s on the surface, that would make a little more sense to me. We drove it hard. We attacked. We played with physicality with the ball. We're a team is good at getting to the free throw line. It wasn't like we didn't drive the ball and things to change that. It was an oddly officiated game in some moments. Ohio State, again, 6 of 9 from the line. Virginia, 22 of 32. That looms pretty large in a 4-point game. And it wouldn't loom as large if Ohio State had more than one field goal between the 10-minute mark and the 33-second mark. But certainly that was eye-opening looking at the final box score here. And I guess the last two things here to wrap this one up are, one, I didn't hear this in the moment, but I did see post-game that on the broadcast, Gus Johnson was talking about how the Cavaliers have been able to be as effective as they've been in Odom's first year when they lost essentially everybody. And he said the difference between UVA and Ohio State is that UVA paid for their players. He said Ohio State, they've given all their money to Ryan Day. And he said something, I couldn't quite make it out, but I was like, I'm going to have to call President Carter and see if he can show some love with the pocketbook to the basketball program. Just kind of another reminder of what money Ohio State has been what kind of money Ohio State has been operating with. And it's not everything, but like that does make a difference. It's just interesting to me to see this continuing to kind of pop up into the overall conversation here. And I say all that to lead us into like the final takeaway from this for tonight, because boy, it is late. It has been a long day. But this is the latest in what has been a season-long streak of Ohio State failing to close out games that it needs to win if it wants to make the NCAA tournament. And I think one of the things that is probably the most difficult for fans to cope with is maybe just I am surprised that there's not been more of I don't want to say outward sense of urgency, but Bruce Thornton was asked in sort of a roundabout way about this was another opportunity that would have put you on the right side of the bubble. And you've got 6 games left. They're all big opportunities. Are you thinking you've got to start, you got to win a couple of these to make the tournament? And he said, I don't think so. He said, we practice every day as hard as we possibly can. We don't put that type of pressure on each other. The only thing we worry about is getting better tomorrow. And so I asked Diebler as just the last question, just how does this sit with you? This is a game that you had there to win, and Virginia takes it late, and it's another missed opportunity. How does this sit? And he paused for about 5 seconds before he answered. And I'm not going to read you the full quote. I put most of it in the takeaways. He talked about needing some time to process it. He said there's some frustration, but he said every single game we have left is big. I don't know how much one is more big than another. They're all really big. They're all high-level opponents. Perks of being in the Big Ten. You've got tons of opportunities all the way through our schedule. Our focus now is on getting ready for Wisconsin. Now, when it comes to the remaining schedule, let's just run down this real quickly here. So Ohio State will host Wisconsin on Tuesday. At this moment, the Buckeyes are favored at KenPom. Projected final 80-79. Ohio State then goes to Michigan State on Sunday, and that is a projected 9-point loss. They then go to Iowa on the 25th. That is a projected 6-point loss. And then they return home to host Purdue on March 1st. That's a projected 5-point loss. So if all those things play out the way that KenPom projects them to, Ohio State will be 17-10 going to Penn State on March 4th, and then hosting Indiana at home, hosting Indiana on March 7th. So wins against Wisconsin and Indiana and Penn State would make Ohio State 11-9 in the Big Ten. It feels like right now, Ohio State I think the Wisconsin game will be a harbinger of what's to come. Ohio State has still not lost a game. There's no losing streak this season. All prior 8 times Ohio State's lost the game, it's responded and won. And it's hard to project a winning streak of any significant stretch at this point of the Big Ten season. 5 of these final 6 games are all listed as, at KenPom, you have A games, B games, and then nothing games. And 5 of the 6 are A games. And the only one that's not is at Penn State on March 4th. That's a B game. That's actually Ohio State's greatest chance of winning at KenPom right now, 73%. Ohio State's got to win more of these games than it loses to even have a chance to make the tournament, because clearly right now they are on the wrong side of the bubble, and they got to find a way. That's that's where they have played themselves into at this point of the season. And I certainly understand the notion of you can't make one game more important than any other, and you can't look ahead. But I also think there's a recognition that if you lose to Wisconsin on Tuesday before you have to go to Michigan State and Iowa and host Purdue, to quote the great Franz Ferdinand, it's bleak. It's bleak. It's bleak. It's bleak. It's a great song. So that's where Ohio State is right now. That's what happens when you don't close out a game like this, or a game like North Carolina or Nebraska or even Pitt. It's a tough place to be. And they have this Wisconsin game will end this stretch where they've played February 5th, 8th, 11th, 14th, and 17th. So 5 games in 12 days. So that certainly doesn't help things. Then they will have a luxurious 5-day break before they go to Michigan State. It's going to be an interesting week, and we'll see what Ohio State can do to get ready for the Badgers on Tuesday, given how well Wisconsin is playing right now. I'm going to wrap this one up now. My throat's getting a little scratchy, and it's getting late, and I got to drive home in the morning. So didn't get to see, there were a couple of people that had messaged me that they were going to be at the game and hope to cross paths with more of you, and unfortunately it just didn't work out, and wish it would have. So I apologize for that. As I always say, I love when I get to put faces with names and get to talk to people before games. If you see me, please say hi. If you do see me with my head down writing after a 4-point game that was decided in the final minute, please don't yell at me and tell me what I should be writing. That would be maybe my one request. But please say hi if you see me. It's always great to, like I said, put faces with names and all that. So as always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter or ajardy@dispatch.com. Thank you again for listening. Thanks to Patrick Flaherty for getting this out to you all. I'll be back with you Tuesday night after the Wisconsin game, and after I check out Jack White's Third Man Records here in Nashville on Sunday, which I cannot wait for. So until Tuesday night, be kind, take care, and we'll talk soon.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.